right, thank you, Michael. Let me start with an introduction. I'm David Merrick, and I'm chairman of the Government Affairs Committee for the Professional Remodeling Organization in the Mid-Atlantic. When I first met Director Chrappah, it was a little over 2 years ago, around 2 years ago. He had some great news that they were hiring Michael Brown to run the residential center. And now the director has agreed to join us in the call today. And Director, you just got a feeling for what these calls have been. We've been talking most of last year with Michael about this, and he's willing to take questions from anybody and get picked on. And he said you would be willing to get the same kind of questioning and all that. What we'd really like to hear about is what's coming up in the future. What does the Department of Buildings mean to us? Just about everyone on the call is in the residential remodeling business. So not many people are building new structures, and few of us are working in commercial. It's all residential remodeling. So with that, Director, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. First of all, my apologies for not being able to join sooner, but I'm incredibly excited to have the chance to share a few things with you all and also get to learn from you. By way of background, I've had a number of interactions with some of you independently, and today is my first time being in front of the group. I'd also want to thank David and the whole PRO Mid-Atlantic organization for their leadership and also their partnership with the department. A lot of the things we choose to do internally is driven by the feedback we hear from the community, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I'm particularly proud of the relationship that we have with your organization and also the open line of communication, because it only helps us get better with time. For today, I want to touch on 4 broad things and leave a chunk of time available for comments, questions, and feedback. But if you look back a couple of years ago, when I joined the agency, I promised that we will see a wholesale improvement across all the services that DCRA provides, from permitting, inspections, licensing, enforcement. And our strategy for doing that was to go through a digital transformation. The digital transformation was more than implementing systems. It also involved bringing on talent, elevating people who are doing a good job, and changing the culture, a culture where we are responsive to the needs of our customers, a culture where we look at data to make informed decisions, a culture where we will remain receptive to feedback, good, bad, and the ugly, a culture where our commitment to our customers remains number one, because without our customers, there's nothing for us to do. And our customers run the gamut from just a regular homeowner or a big developer or industry professionals that are helping in the land development space around the district. I'm proud to share that we feel the digital transformation has worked. We've been able to make it faster to get and easier to get a permit or a license. And we've also, along the way, been recognized by independent bodies. Last December, I was humbled to receive an honor for the work that we've been doing around digital transformation, where DCRA was named the most outstanding digital transformation workplace program by a global body. And as much as it feels good, it also reminds us that our work is not yet done, because there's a whole lot more that we can do. So this year, there are a few things that we'll be tackling. One is implementing the Department of Buildings Act, which, as most of you know, is a law that was passed by council and it splits DCRA into 2. The permitting, inspections function on one hand, and then the licensing on another hand. While the executive branch was opposed to the change, it is the law now, and we are way past that. Our mission now is to ensure a smooth transition from DCRA into Department of Buildings, and then Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection. And we've been working hard at that. We've created a transition plan well, it's still January. January, the mayor submitted information to the council. We've created a human capital plan that shows how we would organize the agencies in terms of who reports to who and the functions. We are also working with our culture change consultants to help our staff adapt to the change. And while some may see this as a big change, honestly, DCRA is being used to disruption. We self-induced a disruption called digital transformation to change the way we work. And then we also had to navigate the pandemic, and we're still navigating it. But this transition to the Department of Buildings, we see as just another transition and disruption that we will live through it with the feedback that we'll be receiving from the industry and the planning that we have in place. If there's one thing I want to point out as it relates to the transition to the Department of Buildings, our number one goal is to ensure that services don't get disrupted, because whether it's DCRA or two separate agencies, people need to get their permits and they want to get it now. People still need their inspections. It has to be done so that we can protect the public. So the core work that we do is not going to change. What is going to change is the momentum and the effort that we are going to put into it to ensure that it's a smooth transition for our customers so that you are not negatively impacted. Over the next several weeks and through the spring into the summer, we will dial up our public engagement efforts to make people aware of the mission of the Department of Buildings, the nature of services that will be provided, how people can access the services, and also how they can be part of the transition, because it's going to take several years to stand up a new agency. But come October 1, it will be the Department of Buildings. And our plan is to ensure that the transition is as smooth as it can get. The second thing I want to touch on is some of the work we are currently doing to further streamline the permitting process. We've made investments in the permit wizard, and customers have told us how much they like it and also areas where we can make it better. One area that we've just been, in my point of view, tinkering around the edges and not that any big change is the plan review process in itself. A big part of that is the software that we currently use and also how it needs to be modernized. So a project we have underway is to replace the current plan review software we have so that we can put in place a better software that has a number of benefits. For example, simultaneous reviews can actually happen. And also you can see the changes that have been done, similar to like track changes in Word, so that you can respond specifically to certain comments. You don't have to wait for the comment period to be over before you can submit. You also don't have to deal with the performance issues that we see with the current application. So we are very excited about that project. It is a big undertaking, and we are starting with the residential center. So as we get closer and deeper into the product rollout, we will certainly continue to engage with your group so I can provide us feedback, because nothing is going to work for us if it doesn't have our customer input and it doesn't have our customer involvement. The next thing I want to add that we are working on this year is to modernize the baseline permitting system that we have. Over the last couple of years, we've been able to modernize the systems by building on top of it. But we'll be making an investment this year in a new land use management system so that we can have better functionality, easy access to information, and streamline the way our customers engage with us. The last thing I'll also mention to get to the four things that I wanted to just flag for the group is that we are also going to be spending a lot more time on the people aspect of our organization. Like our residents and business customers, a lot of people are under stress because we've been in a pandemic for so long. Anxiety, we see that. Stress levels, we see that. And we are making investments to improve the mental health of our employees, because if they are in a better place, we feel they can provide better services to our customers. So we have some initiatives that will target improving employee well-being as we get deeper and deeper into the pandemic. And all of these measures are designed to ensure that the benefits that our customers have seen over the last few years around DCRA's transformation continues as we move into the Department of Buildings and we continue to adapt to the changing needs of our customers. I hope you continue to stay with us through this journey and you continue to provide feedback and have us enjoy the benefits of the partnerships so that we can provide better services over time. With that said, I'll press pause and give the proverbial mic back to you, David, or anybody else from the group who may have like comments, feedback, or questions for me to address.
I guess it would help when I unmute if I'm going to speak. Thank you. Has anyone got a burning question? Or I always do to start it off. So I will start it off. And
I had a question.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm just wondering if as part of it sounds like a DCRA is working very hard to try and improve and put it together. And I'm just wondering, have they been looking at any of the surrounding jurisdictions, Montgomery County in Maryland, Fairfax, Alexandria, Arlington, to see how similar projects are being reviewed in those jurisdictions? Because it seems like there is a lot more required for a permit in DC than in other jurisdictions. And I was just wondering if they have looked at that and thought about that.
Yes, we do benchmark ourselves not only against the surrounding jurisdictions, but also other members of the construction industry, or what I'll say, like the regulatory part of things, other cities like Boston, San Francisco, and also globally, because we want to steal the best ideas. One of the things that inspired us to create predefined service levels was actually something that Fairfax was doing. You go to that website, they'll tell you how long it will take to get a particular type of permit. And we borrowed from that sort of like a page. We also do get quite a bit of questions about, yeah, it took me 10 days to get this in Montgomery County. Why is it taking this long in DC? Then we have to explain sort of like our environment. In some of the jurisdictions that we have around us, permitting and zoning functions don't sit in the same agency. Some of the jurisdictions, the type of work we do even sits in the housing and community development function. And DC has its laws that we have to follow. DC also has what we deal with in other cities as well, sort of like, row houses type of situation. So that's a long way of saying, yes, we look at our other jurisdictions, we look at their processes, their service levels, and even some of the systems they use, and we try to do the best job that we can given our circumstances. But if there are some ideas about something you've come across in an other jurisdiction that you would like us to consider, we'll be more than happy to hear more about it, because you are the practitioners. And that is where sort of like the hammer meets the nail. So if there's something you've seen that you think this you should consider, we are all ears.
So if I could add into that, John, we are setting up these calls with Fairfax, Montgomery County, and DCRA. And just as a natural byproduct of that conversation, things are going back, after we have a call with Fairfax and talk about the way they've done it, next time we're talking with Michael, we're sharing that information with him.
Mm-hmm.
So as these calls develop, it's up to us to kind of point out the differences and what's working good, what's not. And what we are finding is that all of the jurisdictions are equally welcoming to our comments and our participation. So part of the responsibility lies with us.
And if I may add, John, I occasionally talk to my peers in other jurisdictions, because one of the things that others are also trying to replicate is what we have as the accelerated review program. I used to be called Velocity. When Velocity started, it was for big projects. But during the current administration, we've also made that accessible for residential projects, like small projects. And we've also reduced the price point for that. We've also streamlined permit processes so that people can get what they used to call postcard permits through digital walkthroughs. One thing that I'm very comfortable is that when it comes to the idea of streamlining or online-based applications, we are ahead of the pack. When it comes to how staff are organized, there's something that we can learn from other jurisdictions, which is part of the inspiration in having us create the residential center under Michael Brown, so that residential jobs just go through a separate queue. And the staff that works in that gets the benefit of being like a plan reviewer and also sometimes an inspector, and they can see both sides of a project.
Okay, anyone else got a burning question?
I have a burning question. Ernest and Michael, do you know the legislative history behind why contractors in DC are not allowed to work on any DC recognized holiday? And if they do, they get a huge fine that's very complicated. I've asked the mayor and many legislators, and nobody knows the legislative history behind this, but Maryland and Virginia, I don't think there's any other district or state in the union that has this rule that licensed contractors aren't allowed to work in the city on various holidays that we may not be able to afford to give off to our employees.
The short answer is I don't know, but usually on holidays when I drive around in just Tacoma Park here, I see contractor workers and I say, oh yeah, they don't get to do this in DC. I don't know where it originated, but I know the holiday schedule is something that has been locked into our laws and our regulations. But this is something that is worthy of our discussion to see what could be the upside in allowing work to happen when the government is not open, or whether the government needs to provide some type of a resource to do some oversight or support people working on what is seen as a holiday.
Yeah, in my investigation to try to find out the legislative history of this, there have been people who speculated it was because of noise. And then I was like, well, but people with leaf blowers work every day of the week. And
they're not allowed either.
And they can do what they want on a Saturday. If should people not be allowed to work on Saturdays? And then there were other speculation that it's because there are not inspectors around and they can't come out and check on you. But I know there are inspectors around. You have them working overtime on holidays and Saturdays to catch people who are working illegally or without a permit or a thin permit. And anyway, it's a huge cost to us as contractors. There are 13 DC recognized holidays every year. And while we recognize probably 6 of them, there are 7 that we have not been able to afford to build into our business plan yet. And that's 7 days when our employees aren't allowed to work and our customers have to be told we have additional challenges to work on your job. And it costs us a lot of money not being able to work those days in the district. We can occasionally work in Maryland or Virginia if we have jobs going there that we can move resources around.
Well, that sounds like something you got to take up with the city council, though.
Well,
It's not
it
a
is, but
regulation that you guys can change, is it?
But the DCRA could fix it all by just not enforcing it. You never
Well.
used to enforce this rule. It's been a rule on the books for decades, and nobody knew where it started. And it's one of these rules that if you just stopped enforcing it, the rule would probably go away.
I wish it was like I said, but I get your broader point. The ability to put people to work and for them to be able to take care of their families and also to keep projects going. Those are all like legitimate reasons, and we'll always have to balance what different stakeholder interest groups have to say. While we have after hours permits for certain situations, at some point we'll have to revisit the work schedule or the days that are allowed, and also put in place some measures for those who want to game the system to reduce their incentives. The vast majority of people want to do the right thing. We just have to figure out the appropriate balance from oversight, freedom, and also having professionals do what they are good at.
So we need to introduce legislation to the council. That's really your only advice on how to deal with this.
Council make the laws and I implement them.
Yeah, no, okay, I'll work on that.
All right.
We have another question from Will for you, Director Chrappah. What inroads have you made with DCRA sister agencies like DDOT and DOEE for comparable improvements to, sorry, I gotta move it down, the overall permit review process?
And technology.
Or any of it.
Yeah. We are getting there. We are a family of DC government. So if DCRA can get your reviews done in a few days, but you're still waiting for reviews from our sister agencies, at the end of the day, our job is not yet done. More specifically to your question, we've provided agreements to our sister agencies for them to review and give us feedback, but we are hopeful that this year we'll consummate a memorandum of understanding so that their reviewers have to abide by our service level timelines. That's number one. And secondly, in huge part, because of the mayor, we had additional resources this fiscal year to hire additional people to support the work at our agencies. So we are making money available to them, and we are making an agreement available to them that will pay for some of your resources. But here's what we expect. We expect that there will be service levels around the permit review process so that our customers have predictability and they have an objective basis to hold us, any other agency, and themselves accountable. So that's some of the things that we've done this year as it relates to helping sister agencies also move things along. As part of systems implementation of the plan review software, we are also inviting sister agencies to be part of that so that the electronic routing can go from end to end with complete transparency. And then the third is through conversations like this, hearing what your feedback is regarding sister agencies, and me having those conversations with their directors as well, that permitting is a core function of the city, and we will continue to work together. But so far, I must say that my colleagues in other agencies have been broadly supportive of improving the permitting process, and we are hopeful that this year we'll lock in those agreements so that there's something for us to work off.
Yeah, if I could follow up with that, I mean, the beef that I have with the sister agencies is their refusal to work with project docs and not following your permit processing, so that it forces us to deal with them separately with and use their DOEE, the stormwater database system, and that other thing. So it's a big enough learning curve working with you guys, but then throw these other agencies in there and everybody's doing it differently. Having a common software and a common process for a permit would make a huge difference. And getting them to hold to your timeline. So how can we help?
There are a couple of ways. One will be having some conversations about one permit center, not physically, but from a workflow standpoint. And sister agencies will be part of that conversations. But it would also translate into a budget ask. Fiscal year 23, we're going to be asking for an investment to be made to support the central permitting function based on what we've learned by providing money and resources to our sister agencies. So at that point, we'd like to call on your group to support the idea of a central permitting center or a one permit center and the workflows associated with it and the systems associated with it and the financial resources that is necessary to stand that up. That will be a huge thing for not only the district, but also other jurisdictions that have different players involved in the permitting process.
And if I could add on to that, one of the things that I'm excited about is with the new permitting plan review process that we're setting up with, it's called ePlan software. I actually have gotten all of the directors of all the sister agencies wanting to participate in the user acceptance testing so they can see how they can glom onto it as we move forward. So I think that's pretty exciting as well. I will give a shout out about DOEE. There's two groups that we're working very tightly with and are very responsive, and DOEE is one of them to help us make sure we meet all of our SLAs, and also the Office of Planning, the historical people. They're sitting right around 90–95% with our SLAs as well. So they've really stepped it up, and the work that the director's doing with DDOT should probably get those folks in the same category here as soon as those memorandum of understanding happens. So, but it is good news. The other sister agencies want to understand how ePlan software works. And I think when they see it, they're going to try and figure out how to find the money sooner rather than later.
That's good news. All right, what else have we got on our minds?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, well, here's my question. Several times in plan review, I've noticed that the person reviewing my plans is a third-party reviewer. So as you develop the new system, how do you plan to continue to use third-party reviewers? And hearing you talk about the culture and mental health of your employees and how you take care of them, how do you transmit that culture to your third-party reviewers and hold them accountable to the same lovely customer service that we're getting from your employees?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We see contractors, or more specifically, third-party reviewers, as part of our human capital. Yes, they just happen to be getting their check from somebody else instead of the government bureaucracy directly. So the things that we do for our employees, we don't generally exclude contractors from that. When it comes to the trainings that are available, the quality assurance steps that we take, we extend that to the contractors as well. The decision to build a bench of contractors to support our permitting and inspections function was in recognition of the fact that the workload had just increased. And while technology can help streamline things, sometimes you just need manpower. We do review their performance, and we've had scenarios where we've insisted certain third-party plan reviewers be taken off our projects, either because of complaints from customers or things that we've noticed that are not consistent with the values that we are aspiring to. Additionally, there are certain things that we've done to ensure that there's also consistency. So based off the workload, we've asked some of the firms to dedicate certain bodies to our work so that they get used to it. But we will continue on exploring ways that we can get better overall, whether through training, quality assurance, tapping into feedback to ensure that they are also functioning at the best of their abilities, be it from like a mental health standpoint or just flat out doing reviews. So that commitment to anybody that works for DCRA is not going to change.
You set up a system to monitor the performance of contractors and designers as they go through the process. Do you monitor the third-party reviewers the same way? I'd love to get a survey form at the end of a review. What did you think of the review you just had?
Absolutely, we monitor the performance, not just from a contractual standpoint, because we want to pay for quality work, but also as part of our continuous learning process, and also to see if we are getting the return on the training we give them that is specific to our DCRA, whether it's contractor support in my group or the commercial division. We review their work. And if you get too many complaints or a manager sees that your work is not that good, boom, you're gone. There's not a whole lot of conversations to be had because it reflects poorly on us, the firm that they work for, the individual himself, and above all, it's not a good thing for our customers. So the short answer is we review their performance and take actions. As to where, or as to the idea of the ability to review their performance on every review, we are getting there slowly. We've looked at different ways to extend our current customer rating system to tie directly to a particular transaction. So at some point in the near future, you should be able to get a link after a review is done and give us the good, the bad, and the ugly, how you feel about it. And that in itself could trigger some type of like management review as part of our broader quality assurance and quality control mechanism.
That would be a welcome change. Ethan, you're muted.
Thank you. Picking up on that same point, it seems like a number of the newer third-party contractors coming in may have a lot of experience with the IBC and bigger commercial jobs, and they're applying IBC rules to IRC building permits, and encourage you to have more oversight with them so they don't hold for comments in about things that are specifically for commercial job sites.
All right, thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it, and we'll definitely look into it.
Yeah, we're getting close to time. If you would all look in the chat, Ethan has some questions for you, but I'll also send that out to you as well. We have one from Eric. Is there a way to have plan reviewers address simple and/or procedural items that take very little time, 5 to 15 minutes, rather than wait 3 to 4 weeks because the project is at the bottom of the list?
Yeah, this is another good question. And I want to acknowledge that there is a healthy tension by having predefined service level agreements. To elaborate, if our service guarantee is that for first round of reviews, standard reviews, 30 business days first round, second round or subsequent rounds, 15 business days first round. That is the commitment that we've made to you. So while there may be something that is minor, we know very well that sometimes when you take your eye off what you are working on to answer that minor question, it slows down your productivity. We know that. We also know that sometimes it's just helpful to press pause on that big review and knock out the small things that may take you 5 or 10 minutes. That is a decision that has to be made at a human level. That person has to look at their production schedule, their goals, and say, this is how I'm going to do my work. And also that's something that a manager can have an influence on. But I think we are not at a point where we can put in place a blanket policy that every minor issue, stop what you are doing to address it, because we know sometimes people will see something as a minor issue, but actually it's not. And the overriding factor is us meeting our service levels and reviewers or individuals just developing a nuanced understanding of what is a minor issue versus a bigger issue. So that's a long way of saying I can't promise that everything that is perceived as a small issue will be reviewed right away, because that could also compromise our broad service levels. But over time, we'll find a better way to get to the minor issues.
And
Didn't I hear you?
If I could add on real quick, one of the advantages of the E-Plan software that we're looking at is that after we get it kicked off and we learn how to use it, there's actually a mechanism in there that I'm excited about, and so are the residential plan reviewers, where we could literally drop you a note while we're doing the review. You would be getting it, and we would say, hey, listen, you need to change XYZ on page 8, A101. You could do it online at that time so we can get it out the door, because we hate HFCs if we can help it, because if we can keep it from coming back, that's good for you, that's good for our customers. So I'm excited about that part of it. So if we kick off, let's say end of April, the new plan review software, I think by early fall, we can start figuring out how to make that functionality work, which I think is a win-win for everybody.
Excellent point, Mike. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's a feature also that can alert a customer that your review has started or the reviewer is working on it. So if I'm home and it's like 9:30 and the kids are asleep and doing the review, and the architect or one of the professionals involved in the project knows that, oh, I'm working, and they see some comments, maybe if they're also free at that time, they can deal with the comments right away. So there is a benefit with what we are calling simultaneous reviews or alerts about reviews that would help address the minor issues without necessarily throwing our production schedules out of whack. So just stay tuned and just do know that your feedback is important to us, and we will continuously work to make things better.
You have time for a couple more questions?
Yes.
All right, Tom, you're next.
Most of the questions have been about.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
You're not on mute, but you just need to turn up your volume.
How's that?
Turn it up.
Is that better?
Nope. Can you type your question into the chat and Debbie will read it for you?
That's better, I think. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, most of the questions have been about getting a permit, and that's certainly been an issue for 30 or 40 years. But the other part is the enforcement. And I dare say that you have no idea how many inspectors you actually would need to cover the residential aspect of this, because most of us on this call use private inspectors. In Montgomery County, you can call up at 12 o'clock the day before and you're guaranteed an inspection the next day. Our experience with DC is you call for an inspection days before you get set up on the list. If you don't get an inspection because they missed you, they forgot you, they did something else, you call them and say, hey, you missed me. Oh, great. Oh, we won't be out the next day. We'll be out in another 4 or 5 days. Well, with all of us, time is money. So all of us use private inspectors because of that. There's no accountability on DC's ability to inspect a job in a reasonable amount of time. And that's a tremendous issue as far as expense to our clients. Our clients are getting billed thousands of dollars extra on jobs because DC can't deliver on any sort of promise on inspections. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for the
Talk
feedback.
next time on being able to get a building permit, but I think most of the people have said that Montgomery County, you can get a building permit on an addition in 4 weeks. DC is 4 months. Now that's saving us now because things are very busy. So it's helped us move some of the DC jobs out, but it is an issue.
All right, first of all, thank you for trusting me.
And my name is Tom Jones. You don't know who I am, so.
Yeah, your name is on the screen.
All
On
right.
your screen.
I want to answer your comment, but I also want to get some context first. Initially, you mentioned that most people use third-party inspectors, and you also said there's no accountability on the inspector side. Are you saying that there's no accountability on DCRA inspectors and third-party inspectors? Or can you clarify that part a little bit?
I'm saying that we can't trust the DCRA's process. And if you guys want to put up a hand chat with anybody that has had similar experiences, but although things could be different today, I can't take a chance that I'm going to take a job. We've tried over the decades to be able to use the DC services, and we'll get burned, and I'll go back to using the private inspectors because I can't lose 3 or 4 days. If I need to close an inspection, I can't wait a week. I got a client on my tail because it's already taken a long enough time to get to the job because of the permit process. Now, as soon as I'm on the job, I can't get closes, I can't get inspections.
Got it.
Because
Got it. That is helpful. I would actually put this back on you, and I would ask you to give me some example at a later time where we missed the service level agreement we have for a permit review, because we are very proud of the fact that over 90% of the time we meet our promises when it comes to service level for a permit review. So if you have a project that is taking 4 months and it is all because of DCRA, please let me know and we'll do everything we can to fix it, because that's not the way it should be. And it is not consistent with the vast majority of feedback that I hear from people. In fact, just yesterday, somebody was telling me they are now leaning more on DCRA full-time inspectors because 1 is free, and 2, there's some predictability as to the service level. So if that is an outlier, I definitely want to hear more so that we can get better. But generally, we give people a choice because time is money, and we know that. You can use a DCRA inspector for free and deal with the schedule that comes with it, or you can pay a premium and use a third-party inspector. We are making efforts to make that space even more competitive. That is why we launched Tertius, a platform where you can go, you determine when you want that inspection to be done, and then you can bid out the job or use an inspection agency that you have a relationship with. So if you've used that platform and it's not been the experience that you would like, we want to know about it so that we can get better. But at the end of the day, we know time that is saved in the permitting process, the inspection process, all the way through certificate of occupancy for different types of projects is cost savings or cost avoidance, and that helps. So we'll continue to explore ways we can get better, but do know that for every service that we offer today, it starts with a service level guarantee. And most of the time we meet that. But those instances where we don't meet that, we want to hear the details and figure out how we can get better, because that is our mission.
Ernest, that sounds great. Maybe Debbie and Dave can just put a little survey together and ask our group, this was several years ago. So if there's been improvements made in the last couple of years, as far as inspections, I don't know about it because I haven't taken a chance.
Tom, I really have to interrupt you because, I would start off by saying, when was the last time you gave DCRA a chance? And
it was a couple of years ago, but it's like.
Okay. All right. So hold on. Ernest has been with DCRA since November of 2018, and things have changed. And it's not fair to make a comment like that based on information that you had from an experience 3 years ago, because I want to tell you it's different. And part of the reason that I wanted to have the director on the call today was to share with you the changes that have taken place at DCRA within the last 2 years. And speaking about inspections, I don't use third-party inspections. I've tried them a couple of times. I solely use DCRA inspectors. They have increased the number of inspectors they have on staff. They call us in the morning and tell us what time they're going to be there within a very short window. They are professionals in every sense of the word. They've hired people from other jurisdictions and brought them in. Hattie just had an inspection that we missed the guy, but she had his cell phone number. She called him back and she talked him into coming back. He did. He came back.
Okay, maybe
So-
I'm totally off base because, you know, I've been burned a few times. I've been doing this
Yeah.
for a while, and
So,
yeah, I
Give them a
can't-
chance.
Also,
Well,
are they combination inspectors? Can one inspector do all 4 inspections, or do you have to have multiple inspectors?
There are combination inspectors are available. So what we typically ask our customers is, give us visibility into what you need, so that to the extent possible, we schedule to somebody who can do all. But sometimes that is just not possible because of workload. So sometimes you have like different disciplines. At the end of the day, really, we view our relationship with our customers not as a transaction, but something long-term. If there were areas where we could have done better and we didn't, the next interaction is an opportunity for us to win back that trust. So whether it's Tom or somebody else on the call, yes, DCRA today is not your grandfather's DCRA. At the same time, we know we are not perfect. We want to earn your business and your trust. So give us a chance. And if you don't like the service, let me know about it. But more often than not, I feel really comfortable about the team we've built and the commitment to our customers. That is so fundamental in our improvement efforts.
Thank you. We have one last question from Darren. You have your hand up. Are you still there, Darren?
Guess not.
That's his hand. I think he called in, so.
Yeah.
It's 3:13. Any,
All right.
want to wrap it up or?
Yeah,
think?
let's wrap it up. Ernest, thank you so much for joining us today. And Mike, thank you for continuing to take these phone calls and answer our questions. And Tom, this is really one of the biggest differences at DCRA. 3 years ago, they wouldn't have had a call like this. And the people in charge would not have sat down with us and taken the questions that we have put out there today. But Ernest and Mike want to do this because they want to make it better for us and they're involving us in it. So, you know, hopefully everybody continue to participate in these calls, provide the feedback, but let's give them a chance.
Well, okay, so I'm not a
That's fine.
grandfather yet, but I probably could be. So I appreciate you coming on the call, Ernest, and I'll talk to my project manager.
Try them out. I tell you what, it saves me a lot of money.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just to wrap up, you know, if there's one thing I want to leave you all with, it's that we are building a culture of a high performance team and a customer team. That is what we've committed to, and that's what we're driving at. So this is not going to be a one-time appearance or showing or engagement. Trust that we will always listen and we will always give you our best possible, given the level of resources that we have. But we know we can do better. And we know we've done a good deal of work in the past. And we are going to build on that to continue to help you build safely, faster, and when businesses make money, the city functions. We know that. So it's important for us, for people who choose to invest in the city, to thrive. It's important for us to have the appropriate staff, talent, and it's important for us to continue listening because that is the only way we are going to get better. So I'd like to thank you all for trusting us with your thoughts, your feedback. I'd like to thank you for making the time. And for me, and Mike. It's been a pleasure having these conversations. We look forward to reconnecting sometime in the future. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all for joining us today. And we do have recordings of this available for all of the calls that we've done.